Welcome to the Green Zone Podcast, the show that teaches oil and gas executives how to take command of their finances and live in the green. Your host, Jeff Green, from Green Financial Group, will be your financial guide, all while giving you a tour of the most beloved and best-kept secret spots around Houston, Texas. Now, on to the show.
The tears, the tissues, the diplomas awarded as the graduates cross the stage. Yes, it is graduation season, but is your graduate set up for financial success? Studies show kids are not getting a financial education in school. Will they know what to do once they're on their own? Actually, will they be on their own, or will you still be helping them? This is the Green Zone, where Jeff Green and Lauren Smith can share your pain.
Yeah, there will be no tears nor tissues when I see my kid walk across that stage. I know. If there are tears, it'll be just tears of joy. Thank God he's off the payroll. No, so this is a topic kind of near and dear to me. I've got an incoming senior at UT and then an incoming freshman at UT. Got another boy, but he's in high school. But so we're going to have two in college. And I kind of feel sorry for these kids coming out. You know, my oldest, his name's Vincent, and he has some direction, but doesn't quite know, I think, everything that he wants to do. And I think he has this false sense that he's going to be starting at the top.
I mean, I think everybody does.
And that's not quite the case. And you know what, Patrice, you're so right. I have not seen one school course, high school, college, that teaches you how to balance a checkbook, maybe pay your taxes, look at a 1040 EZ. I mean,
all the important things in life.
Yeah, all the fun things.
They don't even see the numbers listed down. They just use the debit cards or whatever. There's no checkbook. There's no catharsis in writing a check.
Yeah, you know what? They don't even use email. They just text. You ever notice that?
Yes.
Weird.
I think it's just our generation that uses emails.
Our generation?
Well, mine and Patrice's, not really.
Wait a minute. Our generation? Wait a minute.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, anyway, I wanted to just maybe send out these aren't like revelations or anything like that. Just some tips, reminders to help remind us all about our kids when they come out of college. And, just kind of a frame of mind, really. And the first is, to my mind, is where you're going to live, right? You've been living in this dorm your whole life, or maybe an apartment, or maybe mine rents a house with 4 or 5 other guys in Austin. And so when you come out of college, hopefully you've got some kind of job lined up. Let's assume.
I mean, a lot of people don't, though.
A lot you don't. So maybe you go back home, right? Maybe you live back home with mom and dad. There are some perks to that. Maybe you get a good meal or two now and then, right? But I think it's only fair that they start maybe paying rent.
Interesting.
That's absolutely fair. That is.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be an exorbitant amount, but some sort of skin in the game to make them realize, hey, life ain't free and you're going to have to start working for a living.
I mean, and if they're not, then it's going to be a very rude awakening when they actually are moving out and paying rent somewhere. Because rent, I mean, if you're living in a big city like Houston or Austin, rent ain't cheap.
Rent's not cheap, and by the way, that's a great point. Let's say you do rent an apartment or something. You've had roommates for the past 4 years, right? So maybe find a roommate, help cover some rent.
Yeah, split bills. One thing my parents did when I was in college that I think really helped me understand bills and payments. And, rent has to be paid on the first. If it's not, you're going to be in some trouble. You might not be living there for much longer. So I was fortunate enough to have my parents help me out financially when I was in college. And, they would deposit the money in my account. And then I was responsible for paying off my credit card. I was responsible for writing the check to the landlord every month. We were, it wasn't a time where they had credit card payments for landlords. We'd write a check and we'd mail it to him on the 25th of the month before. So we'd get it on the 1st. And that just set me up in such a pattern for, okay, this is how I pay a credit card. This is when the credit card is due. And, I worked and babysat and nannied and, had some income of my own coming in. And so that would all go in the bank account so that when I used my little credit card for some things here and there, I had the money to pay for it. But it got me in the pattern of paying it myself,
pay the bills,
which I thought was so helpful. Instead of my parents going and paying it for me,
But it also got you a credit history.
It did.
And
That's been
to rent someplace, you need that credit history.
I know.
Great point, Patrice. And to that point, you know, giving a child a credit card, I say a college student, a credit card, not a bad idea, because that also helps create a credit history, like you say. And if let's say you've bought them a vehicle, maybe consider there's some ramifications, pros and cons, put it in their name, but have them start paying the note on that car.
Mhm.
And you can get credit cards for kids and put limits on it. Believe me, I had a credit card for emergencies only, and there was a very hard, like $250 limit.
I can see you
Yeah.
needing a limit. I've seen you shop.
So, I mean, there was a very hard limit, but I mean, it had all like the end of my high school years and into my college years of building credit. So, I mean, once I graduated from college, I had this great credit score and I really kind of had done nothing for it. So it was a nice way to start the real world off on the right foot.
And I think it's also important to teach our children, I say our children, you know, these college age kids coming out of school, you know, a sense of savings, how to save. How do you save? What do you know what to save? And I think a good rule of thumb in the beginning is take 10%. 10% of whatever you earn, you put it aside, like it does not exist. And you start saving. $1,000 saved is $1,000 earned. And if you want a vacation, you know, later on in the summer or something sometime, you've got some cash put aside. And we talked about apps in a recent show. And I wanted to bring up this app, Acorns. I think it's a phenomenal app. You can tie it to your credit card or your debit card, your checking account. And have you heard of Acorns, Patrice?
No, I haven't. I mean, the ones off the tree, yeah, but not the app.
So the app, the tree, not the app. Yep, that's a good one. So the app allows you to tie your accounts up to this Acorns app. And
Yeah.
let's say you go somewhere and you spend $9.25. Well, it always rounds up. So it'll take 75 cents, right? And put that into an investment vehicle. And I think that is a phenomenal, like it may seem like nothing,
Mhm.
but you're doing this
Mhm.
for years. That 75 cents, you know, every purchase that you make adds up
Yeah.
and it goes right into an investment account. I think Acorns is a great app.
Is that ACORNS or is it a
Yes, ACORNS. So what else, Lauren? What else do these kids need to know?
I mean, I think you're talking about saving, and I think just saving in general. If you've got kids that are now starting their first job, I think the importance of, you know, let me give you a little scenario. So let's say you start saving $90 a week from your first job at age 25, and just say a hypothetical, you invest it 7% return over the next 40 years. When you retire at 65, that's $90 a week will be worth $1 million. So that's great.
Wow.
You know,
Start at age 25.
yeah, $90 a week. Just take it automatically out of your paycheck. Just get it somewhere where it's forgotten about. And it's not even, it's not coming into your checking account. You're wanting to spend it. Just have it on autopilot to get out of there. But if you wait, let's say till 35, so now you're doing it 10 years later, you'll have to contribute $190 a week
big
to
difference?
get that same $1 million at age 65.
Yeah, that's powerful
Yeah.
stuff right there.
So the power of starting early, and you know, I mean, I've got quite a ways to go before retirement. So it's hard for me. I mean, I'm not necessarily practicing what I preach in this exact example because it's hard for me to save knowing that, oh, I've got all these years to start saving. But when you look
Well,
at numbers like this, it really
right. So that's the exact frame of mind that you don't want to take.
exactly.
And I think, you know, thanks for pointing that out because I think that's important because I think all kids will look at it that way. Like I've got all this time,
I know.
you know, but you know, the power of compound interest is a very powerful thing.
And it's crazy for me because even though I do this day in, day out, seeing examples like this and actually visualizing like, oh, wow, if I had just $90 a week at age 25, I'm already, you know, almost 10 years behind on that little.
Yeah, you guess
goal.
you're going to start putting like
I know.
$1,000 a week.
I know.
worth.
If I ever plan to retire,
You're getting way behind.
I know. How much are you saving a week?
That's what I'm talking. I'm this all outgo here. I got 2 kids in college. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to talk about was debt, right? Now that you're talking about my situation, let's just talk about debt because there's some good debt and there's some bad debt. Here's an example of bad debt. Your kid has a credit card. He goes out to the club, goes to the bar, buys a bunch of drinks, buys the house a round of drinks, right? He's Mr. Big Time, got a job, I can see my kid doing this. Is why I bring it up.
That's called YOLOing.
He's YOLOing. That's right. YOLOing. Can't forget that. And so then you get the credit card bill at the end of the month and you can't pay it off. The first credit card bill that you get that you cannot pay off in full, that's a sign that you're spending too much. That's called bad debt because you're paying interest on the dinner that you just had, the drinks that you just had, or maybe the clothes you bought or whatever. Very, very bad debt.
I mean, I think the lesson you teach there is that you never spend more on the credit card than you have to pay it off with.
Exactly.
Right? You know, the point, it's great to have credit cards. You can start building up travel points and hotel points and cash back. There's tons of rewards. It's a great practice to get into. I know I've had some friends that have just been working off debit cards until, about the last year. And every time they'd pull out that debit card, I would kind of reprimand them for it because you're missing out on some opportunity. And there's some, 0% fee credit cards that give you some great rewards. But I think the lesson needs to be don't ever spend more than you have in that bank account available to pay it off.
Exactly.
Because you can
Especially
get
because
yourself in a
if you look at the
nasty
interest
mess.
rates on those credit cards, they are astronomical in many
They're
cases.
crazy. It's
So you're buying
that's in the very fine print that
Yeah.
no one ever wants
Yes.
you to know.
you're buying
21%ish.
Yeah.
What are they,
Right.
Patrice? I mean, they're up there.
You buy a piece of clothing, or you say you use it for groceries. You pay for the groceries, and if you don't pay off that card, that bunch of ground beef over there actually costs you a lot more than you thought it cost you.
Those burger patties you made last week
Right.
are costing you for a long time.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is important to talk to kids about that are graduating and starting their first job is just the company 401k and what opportunity that provides them with. If companies are matching, it's really important to know that number, how much they're matching, so that you can take advantage of that opportunity that, might not be around forever, might only be available at this current job. There's if it's available, you want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, max it out. You're talking about the compound saving, right? Compound interest and saving over time. You do that on a pre-tax basis because that's what your 401ks are. So that money is getting put away pre-tax and then growing tax deferred. That just it's an exponential component to that compound interest over time.
And it's kind of nice that you really can't get into it till you're 59 and a half, because that way it's there for savings and it's there for retirement. I mean, there are some caveats and ways you can get money out penalty free, but it's a good way to just put it aside and know that that is earmarked for retirement in the future.
Yeah, and so I mentioned debt. I mentioned the bad debt. There is some good debt, and the good debt, in my opinion, is that of, say, a mortgage, a house. You want to buy a house. Maybe you're fortunate enough. You've worked a few years, whatever the case may be, and you've got a down payment for a new house. Well, that debt is, I think, should be considered good debt. If you were fortunate enough to get the low interest rates like the environment that we're in right now, great. But paying off a mortgage, so that's an asset, right? And that asset, unlike the drinks and the hamburger patties that we had, that's perishable. Or the clothing, that's not going up in value. But your home, hopefully, is going to be heading up in value, and that is a good debt to have. That is an asset. So paying debt on an asset is not a bad thing.
That's a good point. Very good point.
And another, I guess, non-financial thing I want to talk about I think you hear about it a lot, is networking, and just the importance of, it's not, you don't go into networking with what can this person do to me?
Well, I mean, I would think these kids are master networkers with their face chatting and snap booking and all that stuff they do.
I don't think that's the right kind of networking. The idea of networking is to really,
make those work connections.
Yes, and get to know someone. And then over time, you don't know what that could evolve into.
So do something productive, like on LinkedIn or something.
Yeah, that's great. Take every opportunity as a chance to learn from the person you're with. Whether it be you sit next to someone on an airplane and try to pick their brain, who knows? You might end up with a job.
You could never know.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the good stuff. So networking, I think, is good. And you know what? You can, and what my son has done for me and his friends, they've kind of drawn off their parents, their friends' parents, for example. Like I've had, some of Vincent's buddies reach out to me for different things and I've tried to help them all along I can. And Vincent, my oldest, has done the same thing with his friends' parents. If you have friends' parents who are in the field that you want to be in, reach out to them. They're going to be more than willing to help you.
And that could help you figure out maybe that isn't the field you want to be in.
Yeah, could be.
There's some things that look
Yeah.
glamorous And, when you actually figure out what the day to day in that career looks like, might not be for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So just a few tips, Patrice, out there for, it's May, so they're graduating. There's nothing you can do about it. Except maybe teach them a little thing or two.
But as you said, it's a good feeling too sometimes. They're getting out.
That it is. That it is.
But you're right. I really wish we had a better financial education system in our schools for these kids. But the parents, guardians, it's up to you now. And that's Jeff Green and Lauren Smith of Green Financial Group. Do your homework. Subscribe to every new episode of The Green Zone. Comment and like. We want to hear from you. I'm Patrice Sikora, and let's talk again later.
Thank you for listening to the Green Zone podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Green Financial Group. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Green Financial Group is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. Jeff Green is the founder of Green Financial Group and is a registered principal of RJFS. The Green Financial Group is located at 6363 Woodway Drive, Suite 625, Houston, Texas 77057, and can be reached at 713-244-3030. Raymond James is not affiliated with and does not endorse the opinions or services of his guests.